much for taking time while you're on shift. Some of the things that we've been really trying to focus on and talk about with different healthcare workers this month is really financial management and what that means for healthcare. There's so much going on with the economy. There's inflation. We have high interest rates. We've got student loans that have been pushed back. We have to pay them. We don't have to pay them, right? There's so much going on. Have you been feeling some of that financial impact?
So yeah, the I'm dealing with it, but it's there are times where it's difficult, and the Biden administration, they have paused the student loan repayment plan, so that has helped. But as far as like you have to really save all your money. Like, you have to really just allocate what's important and put money aside for that.
I guess beginning in my early 20s, um, I started saving, and I've come to realize that I've lived through the recession of 2008.
Mhm.
My late husband and I, we've lived through where he couldn't find a job for over a year. And I realized having a emergency fund is really important, because then you're not at the whim of job loss. You're not at the whim of inflation, because you don't have to make these emergency decisions.
It makes a big difference. So when you are putting money aside for your savings fund, how do you determine how much you're putting away? Is that just based off how much your paycheck is? Is it a certain percentage?
Well, yeah, it is based on income. So it's on both ends. You try to bring in as much as you can, doing
Mhm.
work that can make you happy. And then you try to contain your budget so that there's more that you could put away.
So, there, like, the 401k would come out of my check, or health insurance would come out. So really, whatever my check comes out to after that, that's what I budget for weekly. And that's really how I would say, okay, I can put this much aside this week, and then next week, I can put this much aside for the mortgage or whatever. So I really, I've always been somebody that writes everything down. So every week I always just would write down, okay, if I'm getting, X amount of money, then 500 would go for the groceries, or, 500 would go for utilities. And then I have to save this. So I always take whatever my check is after all of my deductions. That's what I can work with.
Yeah, and it's important, especially with inflation getting so high, just the cost of things that we buy day to day have gone up.
Right.
And so, there's a lot of young people who are just starting their careers and they're just getting involved with healthcare. What is some of the advice that you'd give, right? You're a seasoned expert in this, so you've got it kind of figured out. But for somebody who maybe didn't have those kinds of conversations growing up or haven't encountered those things, what would you say to them?
Honestly, the return, I never think about the money aspect. It's, if you love nursing, if you love finance, if you love business, then, and you're still curious, then go ahead and satisfy that curiosity and go back to school. You will essentially always have a job. And I honestly never thought about my student loans, because I was just so focused on, okay, I'm a nurse now, but I don't want to just be a nurse. I want to do more. I want to do more than what I am now. So for me, it was, okay, well, after the nurse, after being an RN, what's after that? And now it's, being a practitioner. So now I finished that. I'm actually going back next month for my doctorate, and because I'm still curious, and that's really what it is. I want to help the patient. So honestly, if you're on the fence about it, don't be. Just pull the trigger and just enroll. You have nothing to lose.
On shift, you're doing very important things. So we're happy to work around what you've got going on. I think the things that you're doing with continuing on in school and trying to make, trying to balance really the financial stress of student loans,
Yeah.
with the investment into the future of those things. So when we think about the student loan pause, how do you think that helps a new practitioner who's a little bit earlier on in their career and have student loans that they're going to have to pay back?
I think that so I guess when you start working as a nurse practitioner and just financially, you see how, your checks are looking and you're like, okay, I think I can afford to pay this bill a bit earlier, or if I put this amount aside for savings and have this like X amount left over, I can pay my student loan for the month. And I know on average, I don't really know what a nurse's student loans look like, depending on how much education they have. But let's just say like $50,000 for your bachelor's degree. You're looking at probably like 1,000 a month, or maybe like 1,200 a month, or even like, let's just say 1,000. If you can put 500 aside every 2 weeks as a nurse practitioner, let's say, I feel like that's doable.
Debt is really a struggle for a lot of people. What are some of your thoughts about the student loan potential forgiveness, whether it's going to go through, repaying is getting pushed back again? What do you think about some of those things?
That's true. I think Supreme Court has put like a hold on the forgiveness. I don't know how it will be decided in the end. I think it would help a lot of people if the law does go through.
There's also a lot of loan forgiveness for public service. And so is that something that you're familiar with? Do you know anybody that has gone into healthcare, worked in underserved communities, and qualified for that student loan forgiveness?
Yeah, a lot of my friends, they continued working and were making payments like that. It's the interest that really makes the difference, because you could owe maybe $10,000, but let it accrue and you have $3,000 in interest. It's almost like unnecessary. So I do have some friends, and I actually I don't qualify because I didn't really work a lot because I was pregnant, but it helps. Like, and you actually, I think they say you get money back, if I'm not mistaken. If you made payments during a certain time period, you get they give you money back.
I remember my first full-time job my first full-time job in my early 20s. It was not in nursing. Nursing is actually my second career. So it was in a nonprofit doing social work. And the nonprofit organization had a financial advisor come in and just give a talk about saving for retirement and things like that. And actually, that was a really useful meeting. I learned a lot, like the idea of the gift of time in investment. That when you invest time, having 30 years, having 40 years for your money to grow is a very important it really helps your money grow.
That there's not enough education around this kind of loan forgiveness, that really a lot of healthcare workers could qualify. And I think that the requirements are very tough to meet. And not everybody knows about them. Do you think that if there was more education around this kind of financial loan support, that more people would be going into the healthcare field?
Yeah, it's almost like you know, it's not a guessing game, but you're lucky if you stumble upon these gems. And unfortunately, um there's not enough I don't know the word, but we should be more aware. And unfortunately, we don't have that. But if you are a member of you know, the American Nurse Association or the ANCC or NISNA, they are, or any sort of union, I know that they're really good about getting the word out. But for lay people who are curious, it may be a bit more difficult to find information on applying for school, and then in the long run having those loans either forgiven, or you know, having what it would be to pay them back. Um, but that would be nice, because I didn't really, half the stuff that I know now, it's just through word of mouth. And unfortunately, like nobody was, there wasn't anywhere I could look. It would just be like my girlfriends telling me, like, oh, hey, did you know about this? Or
Yeah.
things like that. Like I didn't even know about the Pell. It was one of my girlfriends that told me, like, did you ever get Pell? And I was like, of course. And that's how I found out about that. So you know, it's unfortunately it's through word of mouth. But if you know the right platforms, unfortunately, you know, I mean, if you know the right platforms, yes, but unfortunately if you don't, then you have to try a little bit harder.
You've been with Direct Shifts. So can you tell me a little bit about just your experience, any feedback you have for us, things we can work on, things we're doing right? What are some of your thoughts on that?
So Direct Shifts is the third travel agency I've worked with, and it's my favorite. One, the pay is very competitive, and two, it's because I feel respect from all of the different people that I've worked with. My recruiter, um, Deepa, I think her title is clinician concierge, but and even some other people that I've spoken to from HR, just there's a level of respect that I feel, that I sense, that I like.
So the representative I work with is Deepa, and Deepa's the greatest. Like honestly, whenever I have questions, she responds to me in a very, very timely manner. If I feel like work is getting a little bit too hard, she's like, I can talk to her, I can call her. If I have like special requests, she tries her darndest to like, meet them. So it's like she goes above and beyond. And I've worked since I started with Direct Shifts with Deepa, and not more so Deepa, but yeah, it's just like she gets me, and I don't want to say she's able to be like relatable to me, but she understands that, okay, what you're doing is not an easy job, and you're not in the best area. So let's try to help you out, and like let's offer these incentives. So it's nice, and you know it it it, it goes a long way.